name is Rob Miller. This is a meeting for residents to talk about the solid waste situation in Troy and where we're headed, and for the city to present what the plans are. And in particular, we'll have some discussions on the pay-as-you-throw program later on. I am the moderator. I will be allowing each of you to talk once you raise your hand. I'm also taking notes. That's why you see me looking to the left at my monitor. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a toolbar, and it has a raised hand icon, a yellow icon on the right-hand side. If you click that, I will see your hand raised, and whenever the person in front of you is done talking, I will allow you to speak. I will unmute you, and you can go ahead. I think that's all that I need to tell you, and I'm going to introduce Renee Panetta. She is the solid waste coordinator, or the recycling coordinator for the city of Troy, and she is going to explain some things to you. So Renee, please do it.
Thank you very much, Rob. And Rob is a member of our Solid Waste Advisory Board that's now been formed for the past, I think, about 3 years. I think you preceded me arriving to the city. It's continued on, and we are in the process of expanding it. We did expand it once, and we are expanding it again probably this summer. So as Rob said, yes, I'm the recycling coordinator. I've also been tasked with dealing with solid waste. So that's a part of the job that I am rising up to. The way I tend to do the community meetings is doing the good, the bad, and the ugly about what's going on. And I tend to start with the ugly first. That way it gets real before we go into the great stuff that is starting to happen and will continue to happen. So we do have a 1 hour time limit. That should not be an issue. We haven't run over that with all of the meetings so far. This is the 6th in the series. So without further ado, good, the bad, and the ugly. We are well aware that our trucks are in dire need of replacement, and we were planning on replacing 2 last year, but with COVID, we were unable to do that during the 2020 calendar year. There are 2 trucks that are in the budget for delivery in 2022, as well as a new recycling truck we're hoping to obtain in that time frame as well. We understand and know that there are problems in the alleyways with trash, with dumping. We are working on that as well. We have a new litter patrol officer. So now instead of 2, we have 3 that just started today, actually our 3rd. So we'll be making smaller zones for the litter patrol officers. But as I said, we are aware that there are still dumping issues and still problems with trash in the alleys. So that's something that we are working on a great deal and will continue to do so. We have also given significant violations to some significant dumpers, and we'll continue to do that. Street cans, we are going to be redeploying more of them. North Central has been working with us to collaborate to have artwork done on some of our older cans to do a beautification project. And we had some lids for those down in our sanitation department. And there are still some of those old cans that we are hoping to get back into service just so that we have more cans for pedestrians out on the streets. Bad. One of the components that we had really truly wanted in the budget that because of COVID impacts we weren't able to process was to have a compost diversion pilot. We are strongly hoping that that happens for next year's budget. We were planning on doing a 100-person pilot and then expanding from there. So hopefully we'll get approval in this year's budget on that. It also impacted the amount of time that we had hoped to have the Alamo, which is now the Troy Resource Management Facility, open. We'd been aiming for last year in April, and we were not able to open it until this spring. But I am happy to announce that it is now open on Thursdays. And as we build capacity, we're hoping to add on a weekend day and then additional hours during the week. The 96-gallon barrels, we have been hoping for a while to be adding more of those and are now in a position where in the coming months, we should be able to deploy another 200 to 300 of those in various neighborhoods throughout the city. Good news is that we had over 55 Earth Day events this year, which was spectacular, highest number ever. So we were very excited about that. And what we've noticed in that is that neighborhoods are wanting to have ongoing projects, so that we are very hopeful and very much in support of the neighborhoods doing that as well. We just had an electronics, shredding, and tire event this weekend. We had over 350 attendees just for the electronics drop off and recycling. And then we had over 50, I want to say we had close to 60 composter and rain barrel pickups as well. Signups have opened for our Household Hazardous Waste Day next month. And I will put that, actually, I'll put it right now into the chat box. It's bethhhw.org. And if you cannot see the chat box, because I think sometimes it disables being able to see the chat box on Zoom, the website is http end item / B like boy, E like Edgar, T like Tom, hhw.org. It will look like you're going to East Greenbush for a website, which you are. They are our partners and collaborating to do the registration for this. And if you have any confusion or complications in the process, let me know. It is a collaborative project between Troy, East Greenbush, and Bethlehem. And so East Greenbush, part of their role is supporting us with technology because they had an online registration system already. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask either during the session or call or email me afterward. Let's see, what else have we got going on? We have the resource management facility open. We did have 2 new heavy machinery operators brought on to the sanitation department, which enabled us to have somebody staffing the management facility. We are hoping to be expanding services there as well over time. And we are about to be deploying an online platform that will be what I refer to as a recyclopedia. The information about any type of recycling, whether it's electronics or things that go in your blue bin or textiles, all that information is going to be available there. And we can also, we can mail that out hard copy to folks that do not have access to internet. We have magnets, which we have food scrap magnets preventing food waste. And we have mixed recycling stickers, which are for our bins. So if you would like or want either of those, we have them available at the City Hall. And we also have some of them at our DPW. And those are all residents at no charge. And as they are available, or as they become unavailable, we will plan to order more of those as well. We have larger recycling bins, which we were really excited to roll out this year and have been really well received, and we'll be ordering another batch. There are 16 gallons and 22 gallons as opposed to strictly having the 14-gallon bins that we'd had before. Also, we delivered to 13 of our local pantries. These are reusable bags, and I don't know if it's showing forward or backward. Rob, is that showing?
It's forward.
Is that in reverse?
No, it's fine, Renee.
Oh, okay, because to me, it doesn't look like, it looks like it's backward. So I'm glad it showed it.
Yeah.
Glad it showed it. So the city of Troy received 2 cents back on every 5 cents collected for people who utilized brown paper bags at retailers. And we had wanted to give the funds back to retailers, but New York State doesn't allow that. And so in lieu of that, we ordered reusable bags to be dispensed to families in need, individuals in need. And we felt the most effective way to do that was to give them to our local pantries. So 13 pantries received 50 bags apiece. And if we have additional funds received from New York and DEC this year, that will go to providing additional bags as well. We are in discussions about pay as you throw again. That was presented last year and did not get passed. We are reconfiguring what that program looks like, making sure it's very, very Troy specific. And of course, that will go to council, as everything that we do financially does, so that we know we have their approval ahead of the process. They have the final decision making, so we are looking to them to also have continued discussions once we finish this series of conversations with the community. The program does manage costs, and I'm sure that folks will have questions on how that happens. We are planning on also working with some local college students this summer to do what are called trash audits, and they are exactly what they sound like. We turn garbage cans upside down and we look at the contents and separate them out. The ones that I've seen that are done very, very successfully indicate what amount of that volume actually should go in the trash and what amount of it goes in other locations. So whether that's a recycling bin or a textile bin, or that it should have not gone in any bin to begin with because it's electronics and should be brought to one of our facilities, that's what we'll start discovering in many of these cans. And so we'll be able to provide that information to council as well. What I intend to do, keep my discussions as short as possible on my end so that I can open the floor for conversation. What I'd like to do as people ask questions is to consider their why. All questions that folks have in community meetings tend to be one of three things. It's either the environment, the finances, or the community. And so as you pose and propose your questions, please think about which of those has the most impact to you. In some cases, it may be only one of them, and in some cases, it may be two or all three of them. So I'd like to open the floor for questions, and Rob will start taking questions from whoever has their hands raised first.
And let me remind you, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a yellow raised hand. Looks like that. You click that, I will see it. I will unmute you and you can ask your question. And there are no hands raised right now. We should have some music to, go through here, Jeopardy music or something.
Oh, that's a great idea. I like that.
Yeah. Maybe you did a fantastic job, Renee.
I feel like there's got to be questions out there.
You mentioned the hazardous waste day coming up on the 26th, and I believe there's one more.
That's the 26th of June.
June, yeah.
And then there will be one in August in East Greenbush. Bethlehem had theirs, of which we had about 70 residents attend. And then we'll have another one in Troy in October. So the current one for signups is for June 26th here in Troy.
It's too bad I don't know. Too bad I don't know anybody. I'd point out to somebody and say, hey, ask a question.
Anything that we can answer for you, anything you have questions about.
There we go. Thank you, Yolanda and Colleen. Whoops, Yolanda backed out. Colleen has her hand raised.
Yeah, my screen shows 2 hands raised, but I can't see where the hands are.
Colleen and Yolanda both have their hands raised, but I'm not able to do that. The only option I have is chat.
Can you see the allow to talk?
No, all I see is when I hover over her hand, all I see is a blue chat button.
All right, let's try it this way. It looks like maybe John just allowed me as host for some reason.
Oh, okay.
So let me see if I can do this here. Yolanda? I think you're on mute still on your end, but I think I just.
Yep, I think you did it right.
I think so too. Yolanda, can you take yourself off mute?
Hello? Hi, can you hear me?
Now
yes,
I
we can.
Hi.
Oh, great. Uh, you said something about getting bigger recycling boxes, and where would I get that? I
Ah,
mean,
that's a good question. You can get it one of three ways. So there are two sizes. There's a 16 gallon and a 22 gallon. And you can get that by coming to City Hall, and we're 8:30 to 4:30 Monday to Friday, by going to our Department of Public Works, and they are 7:30 to 2:30 Monday through Friday. Or as we get closer to the end of May, we'll be able to start dropping them off to folks again, which is what we had been doing prior to COVID. And we should be able to resume that at the end of the month. So if you need a drop off, you can call our dispatch, Donna, and
okay.
her phone. I can give you her phone number. So if you decide you need to have it or want to have it dropped off, I'm happy to give you her number as well.
All right, thank you. I'll take her number if you have it.
Sure, it's 518-270
270
4579.
4579. And will they take the old one away?
Yes, and it's easiest if the old one is broken down and you just put it in the bin, the new one.
Oh, okay. I'd have to chop it up.
If you can, if it's got a hole in it or something, yes. If it's not broken and not not damaged at all, you can just request, you can put a piece of masking tape on it and say, please replace with larger bin, something of that
okay.
sort. So
Yes.
that's the easiest way to dispose of it. But if you're coming to one of our facilities to get a new one, you could let Donna know that I had said it's okay to bring the old one and drop it down to our Department of Public Works, and we'll handle it from there.
Okay. Can you explain to me more about this pay as you throw solid waste program
Sure.
2022?
Yes. So the pay as you throw, what it strives to do, and what it has done in all of the municipalities who have adopted it. In the U.S., there are about 7,500 or more. That was as of last year, and I don't know how many have adopted it this year. Municipalities, and in many cases, those are whole counties that do a program by which a great deal more comes out of the waste stream because people are actually charged for what they are putting in the trash. And so it's kind of similar to gas metering or water metering. It's kind of trash metering is what it becomes. And so what we have a goal of doing is to create a hybrid structure under which there'd be a lower solid waste fee, and then the fee for the bags in which you'd put your trash would be additional to that lower waste fee. There are a number of different models we're looking at. That is one of them. Another one is to have a similar solid waste fee to what we have now and try and have some bags included. What we are looking at now is what the best option of that is for the city of Troy specifically. Does that answer your question, or are there more details I can provide?
Well, how would you know what I'm throwing away? I mean,
Oh, well,
I would have to pay for the bags,
yep.
and then I would tell you what I put in it, or
No. So that's why we wanted to have these conversations, because that's a very reasonable question to be asking. You put whatever in the bags at your discretion, as long as it's not electronics or household hazardous waste or something that would be terrible to put in a bag. But the idea is for people to keep out of that bag anything that they possibly can, which is how to manage the costs. So, for example, if I opt to put this paper and this folder that should go into my recycling bin into the garbage, I'm going to pay a fee for that. And we're also supposed to be diverting it anyway. If I put this bag that could go into a textile bin and be recycled as fabric or as a usable item, I'd be paying for that to put that in the trash as well. And so the idea of having these trash audits that we're talking about is so people can really start to see and visualize, oh, that really shouldn't go in the trash. Oh, there's another place I can put that. So between that and doing the online platform of Recollect, which is the platform we'll be using, we're hoping to provide a great deal more education about what goes where.
okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Does that answer, or are there still other parts of it that you'd like more details on?
No, I'm good. It has to pass the, it hasn't gone into law yet or anything, right?
Correct.
Or-
Right.
Okay.
That will go to the city council and they will have the decision making on that. But what we're trying to do is make sure we get the questions answered that the community has, so that we're doing that in the best and most thoughtful way possible. For example, we want to make sure that families that participate in the WIC program are covered, so that somebody who's generating diapers or formula cans is able to cover that without it being an expense that's out of their pocket. So we're trying to build it in a way that is thoughtful and right for our community.
Okay, because I feel like I already paid $193 for the garbage fee for both installments. So I'd be paying another fee for these bags. And then I'm glad I don't have diapers anymore. But I just feel like there's so many fees now. It's just
So the goal is to actually reduce the fees. And so right now the fee is $193. So what our goal is to either have that fee include some bags, or to have a lower fee and then the bags would be in addition to the fee. So it wouldn't be doubling up and increasing the fees. It would be managing the fees by managing what the quantity is that we're producing as a community. So in other words, the more we're able to do education and outreach in the community, the less stuff actually goes to the landfill, and that reduces costs for the city and for the residents alike. So the whole idea is to make sure that it isn't costing more for residents.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're most welcome. So looks like our next hand is Colleen.
John did say, Renee, that you could make me co-host
I
if you
can.
want to try. I don't know how. Well, I apologize for this, everybody. We've not had this problem in the previous 5 meetings, and I am not really conversant with Zoom, so I can't help here.
All right, well, we'll just go with answering questions in the order that
Yeah.
I can see them. That's okay. So Colleen, you're up next. I have unmuted you on my end. If you can unmute yourself on your end, then we can take your questions.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so my main question was for an explanation of the pay as you throw. So you did a great job. You answered that before I even had an opportunity to ask it. So obviously you don't have any idea what the price for that would be yet, until it goes through, until you figure out the audit and all that stuff, right?
Yes and no. So we do not have a fixed fee yet, because we're still speaking with the bag manufacturers and vendors about how to best execute that. So in other words, there are any number of ways that fee could be constructed. But what we'll do is, when we finish those discussions, we'll present those findings to the council and seek their approval on what we come up with, and then kind of negotiate if we have to come to a different point at which balances out what the prices of the bags are versus what the price of the solid waste fee is, and how the two of them will interact and integrate with one another.
And the recycling fee will still stay the same, right?
There is no recycling fee. That is a big misnomer. There hasn't been for, I think, probably at least 3 years, possibly 4. I know it predates me coming to the city, and I've been here about 2.5 years now. I believe it was a $29 fee, and that has been removed and waived. So
Okay,
there is
good.
not a processing fee for that anymore.
Okay. And then my next question, I heard you saying that you could get a new recycling bin.
Yes.
Is there a way to get a new garbage can? We have the garbage cans that are lifted by the truck, but we, squirrels have eaten a huge hole through them. So I'm constantly picking up garbage, that we've put in there and they've eaten through them and taken it and it's all over.
So the best thing to do on that is I will give my email. So that were people able to see the thing I put in the chat, what do you call it? The link I put in the chat box earlier?
No, because when I clicked on chat, it says chat disabled.
Ah, okay. That's something that the folks who are facilitating the whole Zoom for us, I didn't realize that disabled that function as well. I'm sorry. So if you want to email me at Renee, RENEE .Panetta, PANETTA @troyny.gov. I will send an email over to my colleagues in the sanitation department and make sure that that's done.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Most welcome. Anything else I can answer for you?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Yep, you're welcome. All right. I think next up is Madia. Madia, I've unmuted you on my end if you want to unmute on your end.
Hi, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay.
Hi.
Well, do you have sizes of bags? I mean, are there different size bags for this throw as you go or pay as you go, whatever?
Yes. So what we're hoping to do, there are actually, I think, like 5 or 6 sizes, but we probably will go with 3. We had talked about going with 2, but we like the option of 3 bags because that way our seniors who are often producing very, very little, especially if they're one senior in a household, typically the bags would be 7 gallons, 15 gallons, and 30 gallons. And the 30-gallon, I think on average holds about 3 to 4 of what would be regular kitchen garbage bags. Now, the whole idea is to not necessarily need to buy additional bags. So some folks may opt to buy smaller bags for that reason and have them just in a very small kitchen container. Other folks who have their garbage cans stored outside regularly may opt to use other types of bags and put them into that larger bag. So it really depends on what works best for your household.
Okay, so when this all begins and we start enjoying this, if we find that it's not affordable for us to do this, are you able to opt out of this and go with a private garbage company?
You can. From everything I have seen in all surrounding municipalities, it is considerably more expensive. The commercial building that I have and the residential building that I have that are outside of the city, the lowest fee on those are $265 per year and $384 per year respectively. And so there are several of the local haulers that are promising the world, and it sounds really appealing and attractive. But once you have committed to them, and even if the first year is at a free or reduced fee, after that first year, your fees per month make it almost double what the sanitation fee is for the city.
Okay.
Renee, I'm Madia's mother. I'm kind of confused between the bags and the trash barrel we have now. Do we put our waste in the new bags and then into the garbage can and put
Correct.
that to the curb?
Yep.
Oh, we do.
Yep. So the only difference is going to be how what you're containing your garbage in. So the bags are the only difference. There are communities that are clearly not by any rivers that just have a bag system and they have the bags loose on the sidewalk. First of all, I don't like how that looks. Second of all,
No.
It's going to attract all types of rodents, vermin, and crows.
Yeah, in our neighborhood, there's animals, even birds that tear bags apart when they're put out.
And so the goal is to not have any bags on the ground and to have all bags contained. And over time, so there's been a lot of discussion with many of our neighborhood meetings, and even before we were doing this remotely in person at the neighborhood meetings I went to, about the fact that there are different cans in different neighborhoods, and there's not equity in terms of the garbage can sizes. And in some areas we're able to provide cans and some we can't. So a large part of that is because of the types of vehicles that do the routes. And as we replace vehicles, we're going to be able to expand service on which neighborhoods can have the 96-gallon cans. The only concern with that is we don't want necessarily all folks in all neighborhoods to have the mega cans.
No,
That may be reserved in the future for multi-household buildings, and that will right size the cans. So my goal over the next couple of years, because rolling out the container programs that are for the carts is extraordinarily expensive for a city our size. And so rather than investing completely in the very large cans, what we aim to do is right size them so that we have different sizes of cans available. And then we'll be able to create tiers in addition to for the bags to also create that for the cans. But we also didn't want to complicate matters at the outset. And so we'll roll out the bags first, and then as we're able to do the cans as well.
what are these bags made out of? And am I say I'm gonna have 3 bags, I keep them in the house, put different garbage in each one, then put those bags in my garbage can? I mean, what are the bags?
No,
What are
no.
they made out of? What do they look like?
So they're regular bags. They're made out of partially recycled plastic, and they will be a color to be determined. We don't know yet if they're going to be pink, blue, purple, yellow, green, and all your trash will go in that. There are municipalities that are much farther down the process than we are, that
Yeah.
do have multiple bags in multiple colors from multiple streams. We are not there yet. Right now, we're trying to get people to separate their garbage, their trash, and the things that shouldn't be in either of those things.
Yeah,
So having multiple bags for multiple different things is not something I feel would work now. And I'd rather kind of measure twice and cut once and execute a program first before we complicate it. And then later on, down the line, if we find that we have the capacity to separate more stringently, that I think we could build that in or add that, but I don't feel that would be successful at the outset.
what is the textile bin you referred to a couple times?
Ah,
Is that like a recycling bin, or what is
So,
that?
that's a very, very good question. So outside of what used to be called the Alamo and is now Troy Resource Management
Yeah.
Facility, and at 3 of our fire stations, at Station 1, 3, and 5, there are what are called textile bins outside that people can
Oh,
drop off usable or unusable. I call them soft goods, although not all of them are actually soft. Textiles are a scarf, clothing, shoes, handbags, pillows,
blankets?
blankets. Yep. And so,
So we can
reas-
just take things like that and drop them off at
yes,
these
correct.
designated areas?
They ask that it's not stained or not stained, that there's not malodorous or that there's
Right.
no toxins or wet.
Right.
If it's stained, they can still take it and they'll shred it for animal bedding or for insulation. So
Oh,
any textiles at all, if they're usable, the 2 companies that we work with, one company now, but we're considering adding a second one. Both of them will give back into the community first for families in need or through agencies, the usable materials, and then the other materials they will take and they'll shred or manage or handle it in another manner.
Oh, so I won't have to go to these clothing bins that are out there in various regions where you can drop off a bag of clothing that you cleared out of the house. I could drop it at one of these places.
Mhm.
Well, so those 4 bin locations are the sites that you'll be dropping it at now, and we're hoping to increase
Right.
the number of them. Yes.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good thing. Okay, and now when and if or this program starts, will we get a heads up ahead of that so we know what we're doing?
Absolutely. We'll be having extensive discussions. So the idea is that as soon as it goes to council and gets approved, we
Yeah.
will start posting a great deal of information on the platform I was just discussing, which is Recollect.
Mhm.
There'll be all sorts of resources on there, as well as how to manage, how to handle different materials, where they can be brought. I mean, everything from eyeglasses to spray bottles, you name it, I think there are about 275 different types of items that we're starting out with on there, and we'll expand that.
And for people like me that are not techie, I'm with my daughter because she's smarter, but I'm not techie. Can you put something out at that time? Like
Yep.
a pamphlet booklet with instructions and stuff like that?
Yes, and so we can actually customize it. So let's say you're interested in everything about textiles, but you really couldn't care less about what to do with a paper clip. You know, so we can send you specific information, or we can print out a great deal of what's in that recyclopedia and we can mail it to you. And so one of the things that we've budgeted for in this year's budget is to be able to print out materials for folks that don't have internet access or aren't comfortable going online
Yeah,
to look at
that
it.
would be a good idea. Would we have
Sure.
to request it or would it be automatic?
We're going to do that by request because that way we're not overprinting stuff.
Okay.
Because from what we're seeing and what we're hearing in our community, it tends to be between 2 and 8% of families and households that aren't comfortable with the technology aspect of it.
Yeah.
But because we don't know who those households are, unless they self-identify, we don't want to be printing out 50,000 copies of something.
I understand, dear. Let me see one other thing while I have your attention. The shredding of paper, like I know I missed the date on Saturday, but I have a shopping bag full of old pieces of paper and everything. I don't have a shredder. When this goes new, is there going to be something there to accommodate people that need stuff shredded?
So we'll continue to have events. That seems to be the most cost-effective way of handling it. At our event on Saturday, I had requests for another event. So we are hoping to host one for the fall, although because we haven't planned it yet, I don't know. I'm hoping that will come to fruition. If not, we'll definitely have one next spring, but it's going to be my goal. And I haven't discussed it yet with administration, so I'm saying it's my personal goal that I'd like to have 2 of these events as well as the household hazardous waste events we have, and continue to expand what we're offering in terms of diversion, so removing things from the waste stream, those sorts of events as well.
Okay, Renee, I appreciate all the information. You cleared up a lot of my questions. My biggest one was the cost, but my daughter talked to you about that if we wanted to opt out. If this was not cost effective, like for me being a handicapped senior, can I opt out and go private? But you explained how costly that is compared to what you would be doing.
Correct, and especially if we're able to offer the smaller senior bag sizes, I think you'd see a good cost savings with that. So again, any questions that come up as we go through the process, I am very accessible, whether you call me. If you have a pen, I can give you my phone number now.
I wrote it down when you gave it to somebody else. So
no, that was Donna's. You probably don't want to call Donna for questions you want to direct to me. So I'll give you my phone number as well.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's 518-279-7171.
I knew I recognized that phone number, and now that you said Donna, I've talked to her over the years.
Yep. So she's going to be, we call feet on the ground and feet in house. And so the sanitation team tends to be more about the operations, and then we do the background and administrative.
Okay, sounds good. Again, thank you, Renee. Appreciate all.
Most welcome.
Okay, I'm all done.
Thanks for the questions. Okay, Rita, you are unmuted on my end.
Okay, thank you, Renee. I appreciate.
Oops, sorry. Wait a minute. I apologize. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
About the bill that we just paid. What is that for the 2022? Is that for 2020? What is that for? What does that cover? What dates?
That should be for the calendar year of 2021.
Okay, so we just paid it. So we're like 5 months into 2021. So that's just for the rest of 2021?
No, that's for all of 2021. So the billing was delayed this year because of COVID.
Okay,
And so specific questions about the billing timing, I can direct you to talk to our comptrollers and treasurer's office because I don't do the billing for that.
okay.
But to my understanding, that was how the billing cycle was set up for 2021.
Okay, all right. I was wondering, it was kind of a strange time to get a bill. So the other thing I was wondering about, you mentioned the size of the bags.
Yes.
And when I know that when this had come up previously, we had paid a little bit of attention to it, and then it was postponed. The vote was postponed. But I don't think there had been a mention of like a senior size bag. There were like two different bag sizes back when it was first brought up. So is this a new thing for the seniors? Is this?
It isn't necessarily just for seniors. We had some questions and requests from seniors, and so I can call it our small bag instead of our senior bag. In many municipalities, the folks that were using them most were seniors, but
Mhm.
there are also a lot of households that produce very little trash or are
Right.
zero waste households and that have just occasional items that they'll use. So those bags are, they're 7 gallons, so they're still going to hold more than like your average small, the old grocery bags that are no longer used. So there's still enough room in there that you're going to be able to get a decent amount of goods in there.
Okay. And back when this was first talked about also, I do believe we were told that we could buy these bags at local stores. Is that still the case? Can we,
Yep.
or can we get them at City Hall? How does that work?
So we are most likely, this hasn't been decided 100% because none of this is confirmed yet. We would probably use as a most likely scenario, strictly going through retailers. Reason being, we really don't have the space or the desire to have the inventory in-house because there's a cost associated with the storage of that and they have value to it. And so having it in the retailers also, especially post-COVID, is bringing foot traffic into retailers that desperately need that. And so while there are models of municipalities that have it in their city hall or in their sanitation department, that requires additional staffing as well. And so the proposal that I'm hoping to have us make is not to have it in our facilities because it will help to manage the costs for us and therefore manage the cost to residents.
Okay. Another question I had, will there be state and local sales tax on top of the cost of the bags?
Ooh.
I believe, to my understanding, there's a requirement that there is. I can find out, and if you want to email me at the email address that I just gave, I will verify that. Again, I'm not 100% certain, but to my understanding, I believe that retailers do have to charge that.
Okay, because I remember there was some talk about what the cost of the bags would be, and then and it hadn't been made sure, or it hadn't been decided, or we weren't told whether or not there'd be tax on top. So I think that's kind of important for the
Agreed.
citizens of Troy to understand that it's
Yep.
not going to be 19 cents a bag. It's going to be 19 cents or 20 or whatever it'll be based on. Actually, what is the amount of, you can't just go in and say, give me 5 bags, right? They'll be sold in boxes. Am I correct?
So I'm going to answer the first question first, which is it would be my intention to have that price that is advertised or that residents are told about include what the tax is going to be so that there's no hidden fees and so everything is transparent. So that's the first part of that. The second part of that is we haven't decided yet. We are looking at which model is best from the municipalities that have rolled it out successfully and on a long-term basis. Most of them sell them in like groups of 3, 5, or 10 so that you're not committing to an entire box. And they've said that they've had residents that wanted to buy a year's worth all at once, and they do. But then that puts the responsibility on making sure that somebody's children don't go and use them to store toys in, and that you've paid whatever the cost is for the bag for one of the kids to run off and store toys in it. So it depends on what model works best for our residents, and that's why we're trying to get this input now. So if you have suggestions or opinions on that, Rita, definitely email me and feel free to give any input, because that's what we'll make our decisions based on, is community input and discussions with the council as well.
Okay. And I guess I just have one more question. I'm wondering if the bags will go out to bid. Who will be providing the bags?
That's part of what we're negotiating right now, because there are very few of the manufacturers that provide full service. So far, we have found one of the 6 that we have compared the prices with, and the rollout process in terms of what puts the burden of it on the municipality is an extraordinarily costly process. And on an ongoing basis, there's a great deal of labor involved in that. That would mean we would have to maintain all the data to and from the stores. We would have to maintain all the accounting for all of the sales. So there's a very, very extensive ongoing process with that. So while we haven't finished making any final decisions, I would encourage the city to go toward the vendor that provides the full service, because that puts the burden of it on them, and they do all of the reconciliation and accounting as well.
Okay. I just one more final thing. There have been talk about fines and penalties for bags that are not city bags. How does the city intend to make sure that people don't come in and or don't participate in this, or just dump their garbage in a regular bag into, say, my bag, which has city bags? And that was very concerning to me, because we know how the alleys look. So I'm just wondering, what's the city's, how are you going to figure that out? How are you going to know what's my bag and what's somebody else's bag?
That's a very reasonable question, and that's one that we've posed to the municipalities. I've spoken extensively to several municipalities, as has Tom, who's our sanitation supervisor and our commissioner. And collectively, they have said that they have not seen a spike in that sort of behavior in particular. We have just, as of today, brought on a 3rd litter patrol officer. And so our litter patrol officers, in many cases, will be following the trucks to see about violations and about process. And in terms of the violations that have been written to date, I know that our numbers in 2020 were about 2,500. And so they have really arrested much of that poor behavior. And it's pretty easy to determine when somebody is using household bags that aren't for a particular household, and they're put, like, let's say there's a random bag that's put outside of somebody's can. A lot of times it can be traced back to who put it there, because a lot of times there's identifying materials there.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all the information. So thank you.
You're most welcome. And again, Rita, if you have any questions or concerns that come up as we go through the process, please feel free to call or email me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nicole, you are next up. I have unmuted you on my end.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, thank you so much. And I apologize if you already answered this. I am wondering how to go about getting a larger recycling bin.
There are 3 ways of doing it. And you can obtain one by coming to the City Hall. We're Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. We can get that to you from the DPW. You can pick it up down there, 7:30 to 2:30, Monday through Friday. Or if you want to wait till towards the end of the month, if you want to request a bin dropped off to you, you can call Donna, and she is at 518-270-4579. And when the sanitation department is able to, they can drop it to you. So any of those 3 can be utilized for process. And there are 2 sizes now, one that is slightly larger than your old bin. Your old bin was 14 gallons, so there's a 16 gallon, and then there's a much larger one that's 22 gallons.
Perfect, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything else?
That's it.
Oh, okay then. Anybody else have any questions?
I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
How do you prevent non-standard bags from being put in a bin in the automatically lifted bins?
That's another interesting question, and one that we had asked Binghamton in particular about that. And they have their laborers on their trucks are looking out for so there's a camera that would be rear mounted on the trucks, so that as the can is tipped, that it would see that there is an aberration to what the other colors are in it. And so we'd be able to monitor it that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any questions, concerns? Anything else that has to do with recycling or diversion, solid waste? Going once. Oh, Colleen, I don't know if you put your hand up again. For some reason, it looks like you did. I don't know if you did or not. I'm going to go back to, okay. Yolanda, did you have your hand back up again?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I just live in an area where the city of Troy doesn't provide a garbage pail or garbage bin for in the community I live in. So obviously I would still use my own garbage bin to throw the new bags in, and that would be okay.
Correct, absolutely. And so our goal again is to, over the coming couple of years, start to standardize that. And there is more capacity this year than there was in prior years, because we do have the one new truck that was ordered in 2019 that came in during 2020. So we are expanding that route during this calendar year. We just had some barrels come in, so we'll be able to do that. But it's also dependent on the width of the streets, because there are some of our streets in the city that if we were to use our regular automated truck, it has what's called a sidearm, and it would either not clear the cars or not clear the wires. So dependent on that is going to depend on which streets we're able to replace most easily and most quickly.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't think of all that. I know there's a lot of narrow streets where I am, so.
Yeah, and
All right,
so
thank you.
you're welcome. As we replace some of our trucks with what are called rear tippers, and they are exactly what they sound like. They would put the garbage can on a platform and it puts it up in the back instead of on the side. We'll be able to do that more effectively in some of our neighborhoods. In some of them, the wires are still low enough that it would be hard to have clearance if it tips above a certain level. So we're being really cautious about where we're rolling those out.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Madia, is your hand up again?
No, nope.
Okay, for some reason, I don't know why it's showing me that everybody's hands are back up again.
Have you
So-
lowered their hands?
Let's see. Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot I could do that.
Yep.
So I'm gonna lower everybody's hand then, and then if you still have a question, then I'll call on you, I guess. I think that's everybody's questions. Oh, no, Colleen has a question. All right. Sorry about that. I usually don't run and unmute at the same time. I apologize.
That's all right. When you were asking before, I was like, I don't have any way to tell you that, yes, like, it is me. I do have.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, mine is just a follow-up, just so I understand this correctly, because literally this is the first time I'm kind of inquiring about the pay as you throw. So, all right, I understand that the bags will be available at a retailer. So if I go and I purchase a couple boxes of 15-gallon bags, and then say, will the garbage still be picked up weekly, once a week?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so when it's picked up once a week, say I have 4 15-gallon bags in my trash.
Mhm.
How are you going to do that? Is it I'm charged for 4 bags that were thrown away that week?
No,
Is it okay?
no. So that's why we're doing these conversations, because that's a very easy confusion to have.
Okay.
So there'll be a fee for solid waste, whatever that is, yet to be determined, and then there'll be a fee for bags, or there'll be a combination and it will be X number of bags and the fee included together. that's what we haven't finished deciding yet, haven't figured it out, haven't brought to council. So the bags are going to be purchased up front. You can put 12 of them in your trash. It's just that because you're paying per bag to buy them, you'd spend a whole lot of money. And so it incentivizes people to put less in their garbage. So
Okay.
that
got it.
way, like I was showing the paper earlier, it starts making people think more about where should this actually go. This roll of duct tape has been sitting in my garage now for really long time, and I'm not going to be able to use it. Can I put that in my recycling bin? No. Okay, so that still goes in my trash. But this folder is made out of paper, and the papers that are in it can all go in my recycling bin. So because it costs me to put bags in my trash, I'm going to want to divert it and put it where it belongs in the bin. So that's the
All right.
whole idea of the program.
All right, I got you now. I'm good.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
that was good. Thank you. Anybody else have questions?
Rita,
Do you know when the council will be taking this up again?
My guess is early this fall. It may be for the budget, it may be before the budget. So it could either be for it or preceding it. So we're going to have discussions with council after the community meetings, after we filtered through all this information, and we'll be working on it alongside of them. So we don't have a specific date on it yet until we have the discussions with them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Again, if you have any additional questions or there's anything I'm not covering in today's meeting, please do feel free to call or email me.
how would people find out when it's before council so they could go and speak their mind at a council meeting?
I don't know if the community goes to the general services and finance and those. I don't know what the process is for that, quite honestly. I do know that for the regular council meetings that folks attend that regularly. So it would be announced when the agenda goes up. So I would say either way, whether the committees are also having the public attend, it would be on the agenda as an item, or if it just goes to council, it would definitely be on the agenda for the council.
And is that on the city website?
They do it on the city website, and then John Salka, our communications director, also sends out a monthly notification, and then Mara, our city clerk, sends out the agenda, the final agenda, and she sends out something else as well. So it's very, very well publicized when things come up for the community to attend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Rita, does that cover what you were asking?
Yeah, I know that when city council, it's all virtual. So you have to input or you have to send your questions in by a certain date and things like that. So there's no back and forth, or there hasn't been since COVID. So that's kind of difficult, because if you can't just ask a question that pops up while you're watching the council meeting. So yeah, I just think that there's going to be a lot more questions that come up that might not get answered because of that situation. So, but we'll see,
So Rita, what I would encourage you to do is, if that is what happens, because again, I'm not familiar with the technology process of it that is utilized. So I apologize for that. But if that happens and there are questions that come up during the council meeting that you're unable to ask, please do feel free. I am pretty available. Even if I can't answer the phone every time, I do check my emails every single day. And usually within 1 to 3 days, I'll return emails, and same day or next day, I'll return phone calls. So I tend to be able to get back to you with answers. And if I don't know them, I'll certainly hunt them down for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Well, thank you all for attending the last in our series of 6 community meetings, and thank you for all the participation and questions. I really appreciate it. And we will look forward to seeing you at other future community meetings for other matters. Thanks.